Okay, we back at it again with another video. Class is in session, and you already know what we talking about. We talking about how to communicate with spirits. Ooh, spooky. All right, so if you're on this channel, you already some kind of spiritually inclined. So I'm not even gonna waste any time about if spirits truly exist or not. If we talking to ghosts, bruh, we already know what the deal is. This physical realm is temporary. Spiritual realm lasts for eternity, forever and ever. So, if you're here, you already know that we live more than one lifetime. You know that we don't just live once. Whoever said you only live once, they freaking lied and they were trying to mislead you. All right, so we have infinite lifetimes, abilities, potential. There is nothing that is limited about somebody who is a spirit. All right, so when we're talking about communicating with spirits, we're communicating with the infinite version of somebody. So the highest intelligence, somebody who has already transcended this realm, someone who is not limited to the three dimensions. This body right here, they already left it, and they can always come back. We can always incarnate back into another body, but it does not require that somebody be on the same plane of existence as us in order for us to communicate with them. So make sure you click the thumbs up button if you like more content like this. Make sure you subscribe because I got a lot of information coming at you. Shout out Marvin for this video suggestion. And if you guys got any questions, of course, always leave them in the comment section below. I like responding to you guys and communicating with you all. You guys got any video suggestions? Also, leave them in the comments. All right, so let's get right into it. There's a couple different ways that you can communicate with spirits. You got the conscious way, which would be you're doing it from this realm and you're intentionally doing it. But I also have what I call the unconscious way of communicating with spirits, which is what you're naturally going to do when you go into a deep state of sleep, REM sleep, if you will. So, first of all, we're going to talk about the conscious ways that you can communicate with spirits. All right? So, it's pretty easy for you to communicate with spirits when you have access to multi-dimensional vibrations. So, things that vibrate on multiple dimensions would be something like crystals or ormus, if you're familiar with that. I'm going to have to make specific videos talking about crystals and ormus as individuals, but right now we're just going to keep it general and we'll talk about with crystals. All right, so people who communicate with spirits often utilize crystals for what they're valuable for, because crystals have the ability to vibrate on different frequencies at different times, just like people do. Depending on how you're feeling emotionally at the time, you're going to vibrate at a different frequency. So you're going to have access to different levels of intelligence. So whenever you're utilizing certain crystals, you're able to access, well, different levels of intelligence, different dimensions. So crystals are cool because they can not only allow you to have access to different forms of information, but they can also protect you when it comes to these nefarious spirits, if you will, because there's spirits who got quote unquote good intentions and spirits who got quote unquote bad intentions, but really it's about taking advantage of every form of energy that you have access to. It's not even a matter of good or bad. It's more like life just being a competition, and when you're competing, there's not really somebody doing something wrong. It's just a matter of how they play their game. You know how the saying goes, don't hate the player, hate the game. So the reason why I'm utilizing crystals is because crystals are able to not only put a block on what my intentions are when it comes to like me receiving information from spirits, it'll keep other spirits, the ones that I am not intending on communicating with, it keeps them from being able to infiltrate what it is that I'm experimenting with or communicating with. So I'll just give you a few examples on how you can make sure that you're effectively communicating with spirits, okay? So you can use what's called a pendulum, which is basically a crystal on a string. Personally, I don't have one, but I got relatives who have them and we've used them before, but I can't show you one, but I can definitely show you a few of my crystals. So look at this one. This is a quartz crystal. If you can see, it has a lot of sharp edges. Quartz is known for conducting electricity. And of course, everything that exists is electrical. Everything that is high vibrational is so because it vibrates from electrical impulses and signals. All right. So if you get a pendulum, you can have a crystal on a string. The reason why I pointed out that it has sharp edges and a point is because when you hang it upside down, it'll be able to swing and it points in different directions. So if you are trying to get an answer from, say, a loved one who has passed on, not only can you communicate with them, but you can communicate with them more effectively because you're able to use the crystal as a medium, which would basically mean that the crystal will give them something that they can impact in order to show you what they're trying to communicate. But the thing with using a pendulum is you can only get yin or yang answers or yes or no answers or what have you. So you can't really get somebody to tell you something very specific outside of a yes or a no or a maybe. So you can get a little bored. They sell them on the internet. They got all different types of like words on it and stuff like yes, no, maybe, have different numbers on them. And when you hold the pendulum out, you basically are allowing your spirit friend to send the electricity down your arm and use it as a channel in order to impact the pendulum. So that's one way you can do it. Mind you that you're going to have to communicate with them effectively and say something like, if the answer is yes, then swing left and right. If the answer is no, swing back and forth, or the other way around. However you want to do it. You can do clockwise or counterclockwise for yes and no. I mean, the possibilities are whatever you want them to be, as long as you're communicating well. I also personally use crystals to protect myself from electromagnetic frequencies that are the ones that I'm not trying to keep around me, the ones with the positive ions. So I would utilize my black tourmaline if I am near somewhere that has too much radiation. For example, something that gives off a lot of radiation is a Wi-Fi router. So what I would do is I would put a black tourmaline next to a Wi-Fi router or my laptop or my cell phone or what have you in order to block those electromagnetic frequencies out. I also utilize shungite. That's another one that I like to keep around and protect me from the EMFs. Okay, I already made a video on a lot of different crystals and ways that you can protect yourself from the electromagnetic frequencies. If you just check out my video talking about how microwaves are making people sick, the title of it is "It's Microwaves That Are Making People Sick." I'll make sure to leave it in the cards. But all right, so now another way for you to make sure that you're effectively communicating with spirits could be for you to utilize candles. So you can use the fire element. This is more of the earth element, if you will, because, well, crystals come from the earth. But the fire element is another one. So you can utilize the fire by, you set an intention when you light the candle. The candle can be any color, but I would recommend you utilize a white candle just because it's representation. You utilize white when it comes to clarity, purity, if you will, and whenever you're basically allowing some other spirit to be able to utilize something without influence. If you're trying to influence something when it comes to your spiritual practices, you would utilize the different colors depending on what it is that you want to create. So what you would do is basically just light the candle, call in your spirit friend, and you would tell them whatever it is, tell them whoever it is that you're welcoming into the room with you. So another way to make sure you keep the energies right, you can utilize what's called Florida water. You check that out. You can get this at your local like crystal shop or even one of those Hispanic grocery stores or what have you. They have them a lot of different places. But the Florida water keeps the energy clean. So you can do stuff like clean your crystals with it. You can mop your floor with it to make sure the energies in the room are right. You can wash your hands with it to make sure that your aura is cleansed. Also, another one It's called rue water. I use rue water. Also, you see right there, it says rue water. And by the way, these things smell really, really good. Like really, really good. And they're a form of cologne, like that. You might call it a cologne, but it's not like you just spray it on. Like you totally could to cleanse your aura and whatnot. But they're not for just smelling good. It's deeper than that. But you could utilize those to make sure that the energies are right in the room before you even call upon your spirits and stuff. Okay, because the reason why this is so important is because some of these nefarious spirits that I was referring to earlier, they are able to possess the flame, because it's, like I said, it's a battle over energy. So if they see that there's an open portal, which the portal would be the open flame, they might try to jump in there before you even have your spirit friend come in there, the one you're actually trying to attract. So you can utilize these things like the crystals and the root water, the Florida water. You could smudge the room, aka burn some white sage. You burn some sage, and that makes sure that you keep the bad energies away, basically. All right. So that's a couple of conscious ways to do it. Now we want to talk about the unconscious ways to communicate with spirits. Now, when it comes to the unconscious ways, it's more about how pure your intentions are, how major of an assignment you have on Earth, mostly. So they're going to communicate with you unconsciously through symbolisms. All right. So you just got to be able to pick up on the symbols because, of course, when it comes to communication, language isn't always a thing in every realm. So the one way of communicating that we all communicate outside of telepathically is through symbols. So you got to be able to pick up on the symbolisms as you're being given them. That's one of the toughest things, or it could be, when you're first getting started in the whole spiritual thing, is being able to recognize the signs when you're given them. Because we're getting signs all the time on all type of things. When it comes to the different numbers that we're shown, to the different pictures that we're shown, I mean, it depends. You just got to know yourself, really. Know thyself. I'm sure you hear people say that all the time. But that really just means you got to be able to identify what's going on when it comes to your life path as an individual in particular. So I could tell you all of this stuff, but this is just like general templates. But you got to find what works for you. So don't ever take everything that I'm telling you as if this is the way to do it, the only way to do it, because there's multiple ways to do multiple things. So ultimately, it's about figuring out what works for you. I'm telling you some things that work for me. Sometimes there are things that work for me, and then I put somebody else onto it. It might not necessarily work for them the same way, and that's because we have two different minds, two different levels of creativity, and two different assignments here on Earth. So when it comes to me, and when the spirits communicate with me, a lot of the time I don't even have to consciously attract them, because when I fall asleep, I'm already doing a lot of magical stuff. So when I fall asleep, I just naturally go hanging out with these spirit friends, man. Like friends who have died, the ones who ended up not incarnating into this realm, but they're using me as basically the agent walking around Earth to fulfill the assignments that I have here. And they communicate very effectively. When you know yourself and you know them, I mean, it's very clear. Like, this is basically just like sitting down having a conversation with your homies. It's as simple as that. We have conversations about all type of silly stuff. Like, it's not even always strictly business, and we're always talking about like this. Okay, here's the next mission. This is what we're gonna do on Earth. It's not even that sometimes. Sometimes we just have conversations about simple stuff. Like, for example, I'm sitting down with my spirit friends, and they tell me that they like to fuck with people sometimes. And when people are like pretending, and they'll talk like, you know how sometimes people will pretend that something happened in order to scare you, like, oh no, like they fake like they're about to drop something, and then they don't actually drop it, and they weren't about to drop it. It could be something like that. So they gave me the example of sometimes, for example, if somebody loses the keys or they fake like they lost the keys, like, of course, keys are very essential when it comes to being able to access portals in this realm. So if somebody's faking like they lose the keys, sometimes they actually remove the keys because, of course, they're spirits, so they have the metaphysical ability to intervene whenever they feel necessary or whenever they want to. So sometimes they teach people lessons about playing too much, and they'll actually take the keys away, or not necessarily take them away forever, but they would like relocate them or hide them for real, so that the person really is like, they were faking at first, but then it's like, oh wow, I actually can't find the keys. Like I was playing at first, but now I'm dead serious. Maybe you know a situation, something similar to that. All right, so I don't want to make this video too long, but basically, there's a few ways for you to communicate with your spirit friends. It will naturally become something that you do more frequently as you continue to detoxify your body. Your standards get higher because your expectations for yourself will get higher too. And the law of the universe is, if you know that you deserve it, and if you're curious about it, you're going to attract more situations for you to learn more about it. So, until next time, guys, have a great one.